Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show that shall not be named. Today I thought I'd take another crack at the beholder of Dungeons & Dragons fame. I drew a version of him about a year ago, and I wasn't entirely satisfied with it, so here we are, doing it again. I'm starting with the pencil sketch this time. Last time I tried to do it without sketching it, and it worked out okay. But pencil sketching allows you to edit a little bit before you start committing stuff to ink. And it's kind of, there's a reason everybody pretty much does it, so. But yeah, I wanted to do kind of a side or three-quarter view of him. I wanted his mouth really gaping, his teeth jutting out. I wanted him to look extra gnarly this time, extra terrifying. So that was my whole goal. I think I achieved it here. Drawing his teeth and his tongue and his eyeball. I like doing the little cornea sticking up on the eyeball whenever I get a chance to do so. Here I'm sketching in some lumps. These are going to be the sort of roots of his eye stalks. And then I'm coming through and sketching in all his tentacly little eye stalks here. I wanted to have a boatload of them. Most of the beholders I see online, or the one I did, he's got, maybe 10, 12 eye stalks. I wanted like 100. I don't know if he has 100 in my drawing, but you'll see I'll come through later with the ink and do little silhouettes of a bunch of little tiny ones in the background. Just a metric ton of eye stalks. And here I'm coming through, putting little eyeballs on the ends of each of them. And having a couple go off the frame, out of frame, I guess. And I'm just coming through doing a light erase real quick before I start the ink. And this is the fine nib with platinum carbon in it. I'm coming through and outlining everything first, and then I'll use the extra fine in a bit to do the hatching. Outlining all the teeth, little contours and the gums, and I was contemplating adding a bunch of drool and stuff coming out of his mouth, and it just seemed like it was like way too complicated with that many teeth and that much stuff already going on. I didn't want to risk turning it into like a big giant mess that you can't even tell what it was, right? I was kind of inspired by maybe some Japanese demon type of stuff with this. Made his mouth all wavy, like a Oni demon almost. But still making it my own, obviously. Or maybe Ratfink, Ed Roth. I wonder if he was inspired by Japanese art at all. Here I'm coming through doing a bunch of contour lining on the tentacles, getting all his lumps and bumps and textures in there. And just paying special attention to which way the contour lines should be going on the tentacles. It's always good to just make a mental note of it as you're going along so you don't lose track of which way the contour lines should be going. I still lose track of it occasionally, but I think I did pretty well on this one. When you get into something this complicated, it gets hard to keep track of. And you could solve that by sketching it in pencil first. Here you can see I'm adding in those little tentacles in the background, the silhouettes, just to kind of fill everything out. Get all kinds of texture in there. Here I'm adding more of those contour lines I was talking about. And they'll change direction depending on if the tentacle is, if it's curling away from you and then changes direction back toward you. The contour lines will change direction as it does that. Another quick erase to get rid of the rest of the pencil marks, or at least most of them. And then here's the extra fine. This has Noodler's black in it. It's slightly transparent compared to the platinum carbon. And I'm coming in and doing the hatching, following the contour. And with my hatching, I'll start out with tiny, sometimes even just dots. I'll start out and I'll progressively make them longer and longer to get that tapered look. Like on the eyeball there. This stuff will all have, for the most part, will have uniform hatching. And I'm on the lips there and in the gums and all this stuff, I'm making sure it's following the contour the whole time. If I start to feel like I don't know what's coming up, I'll just stop and take a look and then adjust accordingly. Here I'm coming through with the fine nib again, doing some of the darker areas, like in the back of the mouth here. I wanted it to be really black, so I'm using the darker ink with the broader nib. Getting that nice dark tone, and right in the pupil there too. And then back to the extra fine here. Coming through and working in that gradient. And this was just single pass hatching for the most part. There's a tiny bit of cross hatching in the pupil and the mouth area there, but the rest of it is all single pass, so. Sometimes, like in the little webbing in the corner of his mouth there too, sometimes I'll do, instead of hatching, I'll just do contour lines that are really close together like that. It'll create like a hatching effect, but it'll give it a kind of a texture. I don't know, it looks like wrinkly skin almost. And using some of those tiny little dots. It's almost stippling, really. It's like hatching that transforms into stippling. I just try to think about the light source while I'm doing this stuff. Drawing monsters and stuff like this is pretty forgiving because you can kind of, you can kind of just make up the shape. It doesn't have to be perfect, which is nice. And then here, yeah, I'm doing the hatching, thinking about the shadow, but also following the contour of like the little kind of worm texture throughout the tentacles there. And then I'm only hatching about halfway up the tentacles for the most part. And I'll come through after I've got that done and do contour lining for the rest of it. The contour lining almost acts as shading in small areas too. If it's too tiny to get actual hatching in there, you can just use contour lining and it adds that shape and a little bit of shadow. You can do like a half contour line, like across like those tiny little necks where it attaches to the eyeball. You could do like a little half contour line. It's almost like hatching. Just trying to keep the light source in mind the whole time. I actually don't think I'm that strict on my light source. Maybe I just do it instinctually, I don't know, but I don't worry about it a ton. As long as it's kind of generally from above or below, It doesn't matter if it's coming from the wrong side sometimes. At least on this kind of stuff. These are those contour lines I was talking about. Coming through and just giving it all that little bit of texture there. And then, yeah, a contour line lengthwise, too, can add a little tiny shadow. You can see I'm doing that on the teeth here. It's just a single line. Just adds a shadow along that one edge. Gives it just a little bit of dimension. And then, yeah, here I'm coming through. I decided to just do a quick border. This drawing was running really long. I think this was about 3 hours in, so I wasn't too focused on the background. But yeah, that should about finish it up. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you to my patrons on Patreon. If you're interested in any of that stuff, it's all down in the comments. And I will see you all in the next one. All right, bye.